The most confident statements you hear every day are almost never facts. Think about that for a second, okay? See, nobody needs conviction to say something like unemployment is at 4.2%. That's just a number. You look it up, right? But if you say something like this policy is destroying the country, that one gets delivered with total certainty, loud, urgent, like it's already been proven, but it hasn't. Here's what nobody tells you, okay? Confidence is actually a signal that you're probably not dealing with a fact at all. I mean, real facts don't need that tone, okay? Opinions dressed up as facts, well, they do. So once you see that pattern, it changes how you listen to almost everything. Hi, I'm Alan Stafford. I help people think clearly in a noisy world, and this is Think Sharper. All right, I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume that we all got the same lesson in school, okay? A fact is something true, something you can verify, like the sky is blue when it's blue. An opinion is something you think or feel, like blue is the best color. It's clean, easy, and for simple everyday conversations, it works fine. But the world doesn't run on the concept that the sky is blue. See, I've spent 30 years in marketing watching how language shapes decisions, and the mistakes I saw more than any other in boardrooms, negotiations, at the dinner table, is that people treat three completely different types of claims as if they're the same thing. And here's where it gets interesting. Let's take this scenario. That policy failed, for example, someone says. Is that a fact? It sounds like one. I mean, it's stated like one, but failed by what measure? For whom? Compared to what alternative? Is it an opinion? Not exactly. It's not just a preference like saying you like vanilla ice cream. I mean, there's something real being claimed here. So which box does this go in? Well, folks, that's the problem. See, the two-box system we were taught doesn't have a place for it. And that's not a small gap. That's where most of the arguments you'll ever have, well, that's where they live. Something like, she's a strong leader. The economy is doing well. That decision was a mistake. None of those are straightforward facts you can look up. And none of them are simple preferences like, I like vanilla ice cream, which I happen to like it, by the way. See, they don't fit clearly in either box. And because most people don't have a name for what they actually are, they just argue louder. And that's what we're going to fix today. So if the two-box system is broken, what do we replace it with? Well, I want to give you a tool called the certainty stack. 3 layers, not 2. And once you can see where a claim actually sits, the argument looks completely different, hopefully. Here's how to use it, okay? When you hear a claim, ask one question. Could 2 reasonable people look at the same evidence and still disagree? If yes, well, you're in layer 2 or layer 3. If no, you're in layer 1. See, that's the whole move. Now, let's look at each layer so you know exactly what you're dealing with, okay? All right, so layer 1 is the fact layer. This is what your teachers were actually talking about when you were in school. See, something you can look up and confirm, something where 2 people, even if they completely disagree on politics, can check the same source and both say, yes, that's correct. The answer doesn't change depending on who's asking. Unemployment is at 4.2%. The temperature today is 91 degrees. This company's revenue dropped 18% last quarter. Those are layer 1. I mean, you can verify them. You can look them up. 2 people who disagree on everything else can still look at the same number and say, yes, that's the number. Layer 2 is the interpretation layer. This is where most arguments actually happen and where most people don't realize what they're really, fighting about. So in layer 2, the underlying facts are real, but what those facts mean is where people are split. So take that unemployment number from layer 1, okay, the 4.2%. Now someone takes that same number and says, the economy is recovering. Is that still layer 1? I mean, the number is real, but the recovering is not in the number, folks. That's someone's interpretation of what the number means. So recovering compared to what? By whose definition? For which group of people? See, 2 people can look at the exact same unemployment figure and reach completely opposite conclusions about what it tells us. Both people are looking at the same number and reaching completely opposite conclusions. That's not because one of them is lying. It's because they're reading the same data through a different frame. And this is where most political arguments actually live. Both sides think they're fighting about facts. Hey, news for you, they're not. See, they're fighting about what the facts mean, and that's a completely different conversation. And layer 3 is the value layer, and it's the one that gets used most often as if it were layer 1, the facts layer. See, these are claims that carry a verdict. They don't just describe what happened. They tell you whether it was good, bad, fair, or worth anything at all. For example, take this statement. That policy is a failure. Think about how often you hear that said with total confidence, like it's settled, like it's fact. But here's the problem. See, whether something failed depends entirely on what you were trying to achieve. So if the goal was to reduce unemployment, and it did, well, some people might call it a success. Now, if the goal was to reduce inflation and it didn't, others, they're going to call it a failure. It's the same policy, same data, completely different verdict. And that's not a facts disagreement. That's a values disagreement. And no amount of evidence resolves it until both people agree on what they were measuring for in the first place. So here's a quick test for where a claim lands on a stack, okay? Ask yourself, could two reasonable people look at the same evidence and still disagree? If yes, you're in layer 2 or 3. If no, you're in layer 1, the facts layer. And that's the tell. And knowing which layer you're in changes everything about how you respond. So here's the simplest way to remember this, okay? A fact is what happened, an interpretation is what it means, and a value claim is what it's worth. Most arguments that go nowhere are conversations where one person is talking about what happened and the other is arguing about what it's worth. They're not even having the same conversation. Now, hopefully you can see that most people can't. Let's run the certainty stack through 3 places you encounter every day, okay? Media, politics, and personal conversations. Same tool, 3 different situations, all right? We'll go with the first example. In 2020, a study came out linking social media uses to depression in teenagers. Within 48 hours, headlines were running, social media proven to cause depression. Now, let's run it through the stack. The study existed. That's a fact. That's layer 1. It found a connection between screen time and reported depression symptoms. Well, we're still in layer 1. But here's the thing. A connection between 2 things doesn't mean one caused the other. See, teenagers who use social media might also be more depressed. But depressed teenagers might also use social media more. See, the data shows that they go together, but it can't tell you which one drives which. So, proven to cause, that's layer 2 sliding into layer 3. The word proven is a layer 1 word. It implies settled science. But the actual claim is an interpretation, and the strong one dressed up as a fact. See, the data was real. The headline was a layer 3 verdict wearing a lab coat. Now on to politics. Let's say a politician says, the bill will destroy jobs. Let's run it through the stack. Is there a layer 1 fact in there? Not really. It's a prediction about something that hasn't happened yet. You can't look that up, okay? Is it layer 2? That's partly. It's an interpretation of how the policy would affect the economy based on a set of assumptions about how businesses respond to legislation. Economists with access to the same data routinely disagree on this. But destroy, that's layer 3. That's a value-loaded word chosen to make an interpretation feel like a certainty. See, most people hear that sentence and either agree or disagree with it. Very few stop and ask, hey, what layer is this actually in? What would I need to see to verify it? And then our final example, we'll do a personal argument. Let's say someone says, you always do this. Most people either defend themselves or feel guilty. See, the certainty stack gives you a third option. Figure out what layer you're actually in before you respond, okay? Always is a layer 1 claim, but it's almost certainly not verifiable. Has it really happened every single time without exception? Probably not. That word is doing a lot of work it hasn't even earned. And the part that says, do this part is layer 2, an interpretation of your behavior. 2 people can look at the exact same action and describe it completely differently. And the implication that something needs to change, well, that's a layer 3 issue. That's a value judgment about what's acceptable. Knowing this doesn't mean you dismiss the concern. It just means you know what kind of conversation you're actually having before you say a word back. And that changes everything about how it all goes. All right, most people hear a confident statement and treat it as a fact until someone proves it otherwise, and that's the default thinking. The certainty stack flips that. You don't accept the layer, you just identify it first. And when you can do that, something changes. Arguments that felt like fights about reality starts to look like what they actually are. Disagreements about what something means or what it's worth. And that's not a small shift. You're not becoming harder to talk to, you're becoming harder to manipulate. And once you see the pattern, the choice becomes yours again. Think sharper, my friend. Stay sovereign. Thanks for watching.